Hello and welcome to Progressive Washington. I'm Courtney Love, Vice Chair of Our Revolution Washington Bernie Kratz Coalition. Thank you for joining us for Progressive Washington on Uphill Media. Today, Tyler Vega, Chair of the Washington Progressive Party, will be speaking with four guests. Georgia Davenport, candidate for Washington State Representative in Legislative District 7. David Zuckerman, Lieutenant Governor of Vermont of Progressive and Democratic Party, and also candidate for governor of Vermont. Marianna Everson, candidate for state representative in Legislative District 19, and Kathryn Lewandowsky, candidate for Washington State Senate Legislative District 39 and of the Progressive Party. So welcome, thank you so much, and Tyler, please.
Thanks, Courtney, and thank you all for coming. I know this is a very challenging time for candidates. Appreciate you being here to be present for us with this conversation. I want to frame this conversation within the context of Medicare for All, because that's really become the litmus test for what does it mean to be progressive. It's one of the few things that the vast majority of people on the left and growing more and more so on the right agree upon, and it's what people are looking for to, as the focus issue to get things done. And if anybody's going to run on a single issue platform, it's all, that's the issue. So I want to make sure there's enough time to get to know all the candidates and speak a little bit about campaigns. But first, I'd like to ask Georgia to set the stage and tell us about Senate Bill 5222 and tell us where we're at in actual legislation on universal health care, and take what time it takes to really give us the full story here, because then I'd like to bring it to the other candidates for the context of the implications of that.
Thank you so much, Tyler, and thank you so much, everybody who's hosting this show. I really appreciate being on. To give a little background on efforts for Medicare for All or single payer, whatever terminology you'd like to use, Canada actually passed their single payer program province by province. So there are a lot of states who have been trying for decades to also follow Canada's lead. They passed it first in Saskatchewan, and then it moved throughout the entire country of Canada. So I think there are about 5 states who are very, very close to passing a universal healthcare system. And Washington State, we're definitely working really, really hard here locally. There's I was the campaign director for, and now I'm the field organizer for, and we had an initiative in 2018. We actually got 105,000 signatures, 100% volunteer effort to get universal health care on the ballot. It was a great first run. Most initiatives take 2 times to get on the ballot. We needed 300,000, so we didn't quite make it. But then we were really, really lucky. We worked with Senator Marilyn Chase to turn that initiative into actual legislation that could be introduced in the Senate. And Senator Bob Hasagawa introduced SB 5222 into the Washington State Senate. So it had 3 co-sponsors, and it didn't get a hearing. So far, no universal health care bill has ever gotten out of committee here in Washington State. Coincidentally, maybe not coincidentally, both the chairs of the House and Senate healthcare committees take a lot of money from for-profit insurance companies and pharmaceutical companies. So that leads to today. That's one of the reasons why so many people who are involved with Whole Washington decided to run this cycle so that we can make that change. I hope that when I win, I get appointed to the healthcare committee so I can directly pressure the chair of that, it's Eileen Cody, to let our bill have a hearing and let it out of committee for a vote. So, and we're also potentially going to have an emergency session here in Washington State due to the coronavirus. So we are working on trying to pressure our representatives to pass parts of SB 5222 in that emergency session.
Awesome. And thank you so much for your work. George is running in LD7, which is in the Spokane area. We're going to go to Dave next. Dave is the Lieutenant Governor of Vermont and running for governor with good odds, and is a member of both the Progressive Party and the Democratic Party. A lot of what we bring to you here in Progressive Washington is to talk about what it would look like to break the duopoly, to get out of this idea of a two-party system that we all know, like literally everybody in the country knows it's broken and wants to fix it, but a lot of people don't believe it's possible. So Dave, I want to ask you this within the context of your experience. Bernie Sanders started this movement 30 years ago and grows into this vibrant progressive party that has a voice in Vermont. And here we are in Washington trying to catch up with you. Georgia's running as a Democrat. Kathryn's running as a progressive. Marianna's running as a Democrat. I want to know from your perspective, kind of 30 years into this process, what do we need to know from your hindsight to get this done? How are we going to be the people that can grow not just Medicare for all, but all of it from where it's at to something? And what kind of cooperation, what kind of, as you're going into this debate with your opponent tonight, how can you help these three candidates in Washington understand what it's going to take to actually make this happen?
Well, I'd say what it takes is focusing on the issues that affect everyday working people. And it's a populist message that is not the type that our current president avows, which is anger and division and pompousness and lies, but actually the populist position that's in touch with most people, which is they're anxious. They're anxious about their economic well-being. They're anxious about their health care. They're anxious about their housing. They're anxious about being able to put decent food on the table for their kids and pay their bills day to day. And when you focus on those things, which is a lot of what I learned from Bernie and watching him, when people are more stable economically, then they have more capacity to deal with many of the issues that I would consider as liberal issues that every progressive I know also supports, which are around race and gender and ethnicity issues and all the various injustices, climate and so forth, that we also hold near and dear. But what happens is I often see in the larger party sense of the Democratic Party, the need to battle it out with Republicans and raising corporate money means they can't take on some of those economic injustice issues. And so as progressive Democrats or as progressives, if you stay on those fundamental economic justice issues, you can get people from across the current meme of political spectrum left to right and bring them into the process and get their support. And I will just say that over the 40 years, Bernie got elected in 1981. We're almost 40 years out from when he became mayor of Burlington. Through the 80s and 90s, the Democratic Party was very angry about the progressives' existence in Vermont. Their goal was to squash the party and say it was about if the progressives grow, then the Democrats will shrink. And what we now have as evidence, and I think you can use this in Washington and around the country, is that actually the debate in Burlington has moved from a debate between the Democrats and Republicans, the middle and the right, to now the makeup of the city council in Burlington is about half progressive, half Democrat, and 0 Republicans. So as the discussion and the debate become more focused on the fundamentals of the issues, we actually win. The basis of these issues, the facts behind these issues, move the discussion to the center left and towards the progressive direction. And in the legislature, the same thing has happened. There were 3 of us when I first got elected into the legislature out of 150 in the House chamber. Now there are 7 in the House and 5 either progressive Democrats or Democrat progressives in the Senate. And the Republicans are at the smallest numbers they've ever been in both the House and the Senate because the Democrats have also grown. So as the progressive voice grows and Democrats start to embrace it more, they also grow, and it's the Republican Party that shrinks.
Awesome. Yeah, that's some of the best data my ears have heard in a long, long time, and we're definitely appreciate you bringing that to the table. I'd like to come back to some of that stuff, but I want to give Kathryn some time. Kathryn Lewandowsky, running in LD 39, Legislative District 39 for State Senate, running also on a Medicare for All platform and a board member of Whole Washington, is one of the few people running as an actual progressive in Washington State. As a as many people know and many people don't, you can run as anything you want in Washington State, but she's chosen to actually take on the banner. So I'm very excited about her campaign and putting a lot of my personal time into it, and would like to encourage others to do that as well. In this case, I would like to frame this in another related question, Kathryn, and that's that, you're running in a red district, as is Georgia. And we're going to come back to Dave on this because as it turns out, progressives actually do really well in red districts. But Kathryn, can you tell us about where you're coming from, and how does your particular little slice of the pie add to this reality? Eventually we're going to pass Medicare for all. The question is how and when, and is it soon enough? I just want to hear from you. Where are you at, and what are you bringing to the table? I think you're muted, Kathryn.
Sorry. Hi, thank you everybody for having me on. I really do appreciate it, and this opportunity. Boy, here in the 39th, it is actually a very red district, but it's pretty close. Actually, when looking through the previous elections, even though it is kind of like 60-40, there we have a lot of progressive people out here, and although this COVID experience has been really an awful thing for all of our communities to go through, I think it's actually shown us and the rest of the country the importance of getting a Medicare for all and totally changing how our healthcare is paid for. So we just need to, I really felt that we did need to jump on and take this opportunity to make this a blessing in disguise and to get to where we all know we need to go to do better by our people. So I think that the time is right. Everybody has been fighting so hard, and this is not the time to back down. This is the time where we have the opportunity to make change in our government and in our healthcare, and elect a government that's going to work for the people and not for the large corporations and not for the health insurance industry. I've been a registered nurse for 30 years. And I can tell you, the insurance companies are not your friend. They are there to make profits for their shareholders, and they do that by denying care and hoping that you don't go to the doctor. They try to make it look like that they care, but they really don't. They are very happy if you just stay at home.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for standing up and do this. Kathryn, real quick, can you tell us roughly what are the major cities in your legislative district?
Oh, the majors. Well, actually, I'm thinking, okay, Everett is not the major city, so, but I'm here in Arlington. It also includes the city of Snohomish, I believe, and then also out to Monroe, Mount Vernon, Cedro Woolley. It's a very rural district, all the way over to Skycomish and Gold Bar, Marble Mount, like I said, very rural, up in the mountains, lots of farm industry going on and such. So.
Okay. Great, thanks. And I want to make room for questions. So Courtney, feel free to jump in at any time. We're going to go a little bit more, open it up a little more. I have a lot of questions, but what I want to do here is I want to bridge the gap between this movement that is young, arguably young. I mean, we're just as old as everybody else, but from the perspective of multi-partisanship, I want to bridge the gap between these two candidates and the well-established lieutenant governor running for governor of Vermont. So Georgia or Kathryn. Go ahead.
I do want to interject that Marianna has made it.
Oh, great.
So if we'd like to give Marianna time to introduce herself.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be great.
And then we do have some questions in the YouTube chat that I look forward to addressing.
Awesome. Yeah. So Marianna is another strong advocate for Medicare for all and running for State House in Legislative District 19. Marianna, you want to just tell us about yourself and just let it fly. Tell us everything.
Oops. You're on mute.
Are you on mute, Marianna? And be sure to hold your phone in a flattering angle.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that, you guys. So My name's Marianna Everson, and I'm a registered nurse in LD19. And my entire career, I've been serving the people of this district. And what that has taught me is that everyone is struggling. And the effects of COVID-19 on our district are not that much different than anywhere else, except for the fact that we were already the least likely to live long enough to survive this. We were also the most addicted and have some of the most biggest numbers of homeless people. So all those real human costs of not having the right policies for our district are even worse now. Income insecurity is a major thing, and education costs that are not covered. That McCleary decision was not fixed. So I'm running for office to fight for the people of this district because nobody else is, and they deserve to have the best in life just like anyone else.
Yeah, cool. Thank you, Marianna. So Marianna's running as a Democrat. We have actually, people who support Medicare for all across the spectrum. And in Washington, since you can run as anything, that's everything from socialists to essential workers to a lot of independents. I think there is room to talk about a large coalition that really uses this issue to mobilize the left, so to speak. But I want to really open it up now. And my hope here is that we can get some dialogue going between you guys with the intention of bridging the gap between a well-established candidate running for basically the highest office in the state of Vermont and three candidates who are trying to get into a place where, as a fleet, we can pass Medicare for all. So do any of you want to take that and run with it? Georgia, Kathryn, and Marianna, and please feel free to just jump in, because I'm hoping that you guys can generate the conversation at this point.
Well, I definitely already appreciate what David was saying before about speaking from the heart and how progressives do really well in red districts, because, sometimes it's easy to feel like it's just a pun intended uphill battle. Here we are on Uphill Media. Thank you guys for creating this channel so that we can get, our voices heard. So that I think that it would really be great to have more forums like this where candidates who are running for the first time can have the opportunity to kind of pick the brains of people who actually ran a successful campaign. So I really appreciate this.
Well, and I'd love to add just a couple words on this in terms of winning in red districts, because at first progressives in Vermont did win in sort of the town city of Burlington, a fairly liberal community, obviously. But as the Progressive Party grew and started running in some traditionally Republican districts, particularly where Democrats hadn't run in a while because they just thought hopeless territory or we can't get anybody to run, those were actually really prime spots. And at one point, we had 3 legislators from Burlington area and 3 legislators in the Progressive Party from very conservative, quote, conservative rural districts. And it's important for people to get outside of the mindset of it being a linear left to right thing, because unfortunately, it's more tribal in that there are Democrats that we all know that will never vote for a Republican. Well, there's, of course, Republicans we know who will never vote for a Democrat. And one of the things that running under the progressive label offers is that anybody who's got that I'll never do that energy towards one of the other parties doesn't already have that towards a new label. And you get to go out as a fresh person with fresh representation of the issues and ideas. You don't have both the support or the anchor of having a major party behind you, which right now we're seeing nationally, fewer and fewer people are excited about the establishment major parties. And they have their place. I don't want to just bash them. I run in the Democratic Party primary in Vermont, but it also does lead to opportunity for you running as someone focused on the issues and saying, party is not the most important thing. I'm running as a member of another party just to help have a coalition and help for definition. But the issues, the economic injustices, the struggles you're facing, acknowledge that reality when you go to people's doors and when you talk to them through the radio or on the phone or TV and say, yes, I'm someone who isn't taking corporate money and who recognizes that working people are struggling and have been falling farther and farther behind for 10, 20, 30 years. And frankly, this pandemic is really, really peeling the lens back and peeling back the layers of the onion, whatever metaphor you want, to show how weak our economy is for at least half of our population. And if you talk to those people, you can win them over, and then you throw in a few liberals here and there, and you've got a winning majority.
Love it. Thank you, David. Really appreciate your time. Go ahead, Courtney.
We do have a couple of questions. So this one I think could be answered best by Georgia Davenport. A Dingo Ate My Baby asks, M4A needs to be done at the federal level because it can spend money into existence. The state has to tax to spend. Currency creator versus currency user. It's not really, it's a statement, but how do you respond to that critique?
Yeah, so we actually hired Dr. Gerald Friedman, who was the economist who did the studies for the National Medicare for All bill, to come up with funding mechanisms to make our bill implemented. And you can go ahead to our website, www.wholewashington.org, and use our savings estimator to see how much it's going to save you as far as, because right now what we have is a private tax, essentially. If you want healthcare, you have to pay private insurers this private tax. And there's all sorts of overhead with that. You know, we were paying CEOs millions and millions of dollars, private insurance CEOs millions and millions of dollars, plus all the money they spend on lobbying our elected officials, which I touched on a little bit earlier. So if we cut out that administrative waste, we can save so much money. So I encourage you to read Dr. Friedman's fiscal study and use our savings estimator to see how we're going to pay for it on the state level.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And so I think this one might go best to Dave. I'm going to take 3 statements. 2 by Kelly Lane. If we are to have third-party success, we need to be willing to run back-to-back independence, don't we? And she follows up, if we are to appeal to independence, the majority of the country now, we need to reconsider using the word progressive. And then a comment from A Dingo Ate My Baby says that we need to take back the populist label. So,
sure. Well, I think a couple things there. I think populist and progressive, that's something that many of us in the progressive arena utilize, is a populist message and populist around economic justice and struggling folks. And the challenge with saying running as an independent or solely with an independent mantra is that independent really has no definition. You can be the Ross Perot type independent. You could be a left independent. You could be a right-wing Nazi independent for that matter. So independent, there is no independent party. That's the whole point of the label, being independent. So I do think it's important to run with the additional label, define it as you think it should be defined, with party bylaws and with a platform to make it clear what you stand for. And I have to say, one of the things when I was serving as a legislator for 14 years as a progressive in the House in Vermont, that's where I got my start. It was really liberating to be able to serve in the body, having run, being very clear where I stood on all of these issues. Because when the issues came up on the floor of the House, I could offer amendments with my fellow progressives and make the points we wanted to make and not feel like I had to look over my shoulder and say, I don't know if my district really supports me doing this. Because since I ran saying I believed it, I could do it with no fear. And what I found was many of my liberal colleagues would say to me quietly, I really want to support this, but I'm not sure I really can because my district, I just don't know where they are on this issue, or leadership doesn't want me to. And there's a real freedom. It is harder to run third party. When you get elected, you have a real freedom. And when you bring that voice, you are bringing thousands of voices. So when you get that first 1 or 2 or 3 people elected, and they can be the voice to bring those issues to the floor when otherwise they got quieted within the other major parties, that's what really opens the door for more people to learn what the party is about, what the issues are about, what your integrity is all about, and why you're there fighting for those issues.
I do have my own question. The majority of eligible voters in America are non-voters. Have you seen any evidence or have any maybe not proof, but feel regarding having the Progressive Party? Does it expand the voting base at all by giving other options?
Yeah, it's hard for me to tell. I don't think we've done the analysis in Vermont. We do tend to have a fairly high voter participation in Vermont. I know Oregon has pretty high with the mail-in ballot system. I haven't done the research on Washington, so you'll have to tell me about Washington specifically. But I do think the scale in Vermont really helps. The average House district is about 5,000 people. The average senator represents about 20,000, although the Chittenden County district is about 150,000 people, and it's a 6-seat district. It's the most bizarre district in the country in that regard. But that face-to-face ability to campaign, and again, I don't know what a single legislative district has for constituents, but the ability to really be face-to-face with people and get to know folks, I think helps. Having more options certainly gives more folks who are disenfranchised a thought about why they would go and vote. So I think inherently it should increase turnout, but I haven't done the analysis to figure that out.
I'll jump in and add that we are going to get some really interesting data on that, specifically in Kathryn's race, because we have years worth of data on that. We're going to get a primary where we see a red Republican versus a progressive in a district where we saw Republican versus Democrat. So that's pretty exciting, and we get a shot at it before the actual general election that is basically for free, a bunch of data on that of that nature. I think we're getting close, running out of time. Courtney, how are we doing on the queue? We've got any more people who would like to ask questions of this group?
I think that covers most of the questions. There are definitely more comments about the use of language and rhetoric, but I think that conversation will be forever.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, within the progressive community, we know that the word progressive has very little official meaning, whereas like liberal and conservative and socialists have actual definitions within theory. Progressive just seems to be the forward thinkers of whatever era we are currently in, and sometimes they have not always fought for the best, just slightly better than what was. So language will be an ongoing battle.
Yeah,
assuredly.
Okay.
Anything? I guess we could wrap up. Or,
can I just offer with respect to language? We on the broad left have such a capacity to shoot ourselves in the foot by seeking the perfect wording when the issue and the substance around things like, as earlier stated, Medicare for all, single payer. I don't care what you call it, right? We want universal health care. Oh, a third term. What's that mean? But as we use these terms and really expand that conversation, then we move in that direction and eventually we'll win those policies. If we spend our time fighting over the exact nuance of a word, we lose the ability to connect with so many people. It's really important to remember, everyday folks don't pay that much attention to politics. And when they see us squabbling over the definition of a word, as opposed to talking about what's important to them and what's important to all of us in moving together economically, we lose them. So let's not lose the forest for the trees, and get out and talk to people about those key issues to them. And I think it's really important, if I could, go on for another second. It's really important when you meet someone, learn where they are, and then learn which aspect of the various issues you care about are the issues that are first going to resonate with them, so you can develop that relationship. Because, think about it. I almost never even 100% agree with myself at the end of the day with everything I've done in the day. So why first go for where you're debating someone about why they're right or wrong to stand for something, when instead you can find an area of agreement, work on that common goal, and then they will trust you. You will trust them better to be honest with each other. And you'll then be able to grow that conversation into the other arenas of progressive values once you've created that common ground in the first place.
Excellent. Marianna hasn't, and Kathryn haven't had quite enough time to speak in my book. So, Marianna, you've been running for some time now, months. Can you tell us about how you're engaging and a little description of your area? It's rather rural, and so you're in one of those areas that can swing, does it not?
Oh, it did. It just swung the wrong way. In 2016, the district went for President Trump for the first time, voting for a Republican for president since 1928. So we've been a Democrat stronghold since that time, and kind of riding the wave after the original New Deal for FDR. So I think the Democrats got lazy, didn't work hard enough. I'm definitely a proponent for speaking out and saying the hard things that need to be said, and talking to everybody in the district, not just likely blue voters. We're all in the same boat, and we're definitely rural. The biggest town has, less than 80,000 people in it. My whole county has 70,000 people in it. We used to be the lumber capital of the world. We supplied all the boards for all the houses that were built after the Great Depression, and that industry is gone. Largely, there's still independent, small logging companies and mills, but the masses of the union wage jobs that were here are gone. And our young people are leaving because there's nothing here for them. So yes, all these progressive values that we all talk about, with the college for all and Medicare for all, our aging population and addicted population definitely needs that healthcare and all those policies. So yeah, I planned on knocking on $30,000 doors in my district this spring and summer, but that's not going to happen now. So we're doing all the other things that we can do to reach out to people.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And you're running again in your race. You have another Democrat and a Republican. And is it the Republican that is the incumbent?
Yeah, the Republican is the incumbent. He swept in on his red wave in 2016 with President Trump, and he definitely works as hard as he can to divide us up over the issues of healthcare and education and guns and all of that fun stuff. And I definitely work just as hard to bring us together. The Democrat in the race is, he states that he is definitely a centrist and a status quo Democrat. So we'll see how it works out in the primary, who comes out top two, and then hopefully we will, get this right winger that led people to rally in Olympia over COVID-19 shutdowns. Get him out of office. He needs to go.
Excellent. Thank you. Oh, and I'm sorry. I thought I was muted and I was typing. So sorry about the nail chatter. And then Kathryn, you're running against a Republican, yes?
Yes, I'm running against a Republican, Keith Wagner. And he was elected last time. He was actually placed into the position 2 years before the last election, because his predecessor went to become part of Trump's administration. So he's been the mayor before of Mount Vernon. That's part of our district and stuff. I did want to say that in regards to running in a red district, I think the thing that I plan on sharing with people, with my experience and what I've seen in healthcare, and we have such an opportunity to, one, improve outcomes and to save money. And I have to say, I come from a pretty fiscally conservative background, so I hate wasting money, and I see so much waste in our healthcare system. And to me, we could do so much with that money if we just used it more wisely. And so people, like the one gal made the comment about only the federal government is able to create money to pay for all this. But people need to realize that we're not looking for any kind of new money to be able to pay for Medicare for all, either at the federal level or at the state level. This is all money that we are already spending for our health care dollars. We're just going to spend it more wisely. We're going to take the profit motive out of it and make it nonprofit. And thereby we're going to save for our state in Washington $9 billion a year. Even if we only did half that, we'd be way better off. Okay. So, I think that is what we really need to share with people. And that is, that's what the red districts like to hear, you know, if they're truly fiscally conservative.
Indeed. And then, so you're running as Progressive Party, and it's just you and the Republican in the race, correct?
Yes. Yes.
So the Democrats weren't even trying in your
Nope.
race. They were just going to give it to him.
Yes.
Oh.
Which is what happened with the incumbent's predecessor. He ran in 2016 with no opposition at all. There was no Democratic candidate at all.
Well, thank you so much. There are no direct questions, just more commentary in the chat. So Tyler, I'll hand it back to you. See if you want to go anywhere else with this.
I think we better close up. I know everybody's busy. David's got a debate to prepare for. I would like to give all the candidates one last shot to just give us their pitch, their website, the donate button, you know, how we can help you. And I want to mention that we're going to do this every week. And next week, it's on election integrity. We've got Gentry Lang, who is running for Secretary of State. One of the RCV, ranked choice voting folks, will come, either Cindy Black or she's recommended a couple of people, but they've confirmed that one of them are coming. And we've got a woman to represent star voting. So alternative voting styles. We're going to talk about the secret ballot and just election integrity and vote by mail is a hot topic right now. But before we close, let's open it up to the candidates to just give us your pitch one more time. It's okay to repeat yourself. Please tell us your website, your name, your district, everything about it. Dave, you want to go first?
Sure, I guess. Well, David Zuckerman, Lieutenant Governor of Vermont. I am running for Governor of Vermont. www.zuckermanforvt.com. So zuckermanforvermont.com is the website. I've led the way on issues like raising minimum wage. I led the fight in Vermont for GMO labeling. It was the first state in the country to be able to pass that before Washington undercut it with $120 million of lobbying money. I've fought for Medicare for all, voted for and lead sponsored marriage equality here in Vermont, helped lead the way in that. And I'd love folks' support. My primary opponent is already fostering and fomenting false negative stories about me. One that's coming out today comparing me to Trump, which is absurd. And so any support people can give would be really helpful so we can get through this primary, take on the governor, and shift Vermont in a progressive direction. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Really looking forward to your race. I'm looking forward to the first progressive governor in 100 years since Hiram Johnson, the founder of the Progressive Party. Georgia, would you like to go next, please? Thank you.
Sure. Georgia Davenport. I am affiliated with Whole Washington, One Payer States. Healthcare and getting big money out of politics are going to be my two main policies that I push forward when I get elected. I'm running in Legislative District 7, and I am the only one running against the incumbent, which means that I will make it through the primary. So that's pretty exciting. And I plan on using any platform I get to push for Medicare for all and universal healthcare, whatever term you want to call it, at the state level and federally. I want to talk about that a lot to get people more aware of what we're fighting.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you so much for your ongoing activism. You're a very visible leader in our world, and we appreciate you so much. Let's go to Marianna next. And just once again, we're just asking people for a closing statement. Tell us who you are, and feel free to repeat yourself as much as necessary. Muted, Marianna.
With the phone. Good Lord. Sorry about that. I'm Marianna Everson, and I'm running for LD19 state rep for my district in Timber Country. And as a nurse, I know the real cost of what we are paying for, not just with our money, but with our human lives, healthcare, homelessness, income insecurity, and a struggling education system. I will fight for you in Olympia. And I will help bring us through this COVID-19 and be even stronger on the outside. I hope you will vote to elect me to the state legislature, because I will fight with you. My website is mariannaforthepeople.com, and I look forward to fighting with you.
Awesome. Thank you, Marianna. Appreciate you so much. Close with Kathryn Lewandowski, running with the Progressive Party.
Yes, my name is Kathryn Lewandowski, and I'm a registered nurse. Living and working here in Washington for the last 30 years. I'm a board member of Whole Washington, and also a board member of One Payer States, which is a national single payer organization, working for universal healthcare federally, but also at the state level. We can certainly do it quicker at the state level, and we're pushing both ways. My district is up here in Arlington and Mount Vernon and Cedar Woolley, and then east over to the central Washington with cities like Gold Bar, Marble Mount, and then Monroe, very rural district, and then we come back over to I-5. So I'm really excited to be able to take this opportunity. It's a perfect opportunity for us to really make true change in our state legislature and move our state forward and show the country how to get it done.
Awesome. Let's get you all elected. And before I hand off to Courtney for some closing remarks, just thank you to Uphill Media for hosting us. This is Progressive Washington. And Courtney, would you take us out?
Thank you so much. Yes, thank you for joining us on Progressive Washington. All the important links for our candidates and our organizations are in the discussion box on the YouTube show. Remember to help keep the lights on by donating to Uphill Media. It helps with our production and literally keeping the lights on. Uphill Media used to be Bernie 2016 TV and Political Revolution TV. So thank you for those who have stuck with us through all those iterations. And thank you to those who started it. Join us again next week for more awesome Progressive Washington. Thank you again for joining us.
I forgot the website. I forgot to mention the website.
That's all right.
Maybe you guys can cut it in, tape me for a minute.
It'll, as I mentioned, it'll be in the discussion box. You're safe.
Okay.
Or it could be written in under on your screen too.
Oh, good idea. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody.
I'm gonna run. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Dave.
Bye. Nice to meet you.
You bet. Good luck.
Thanks.